You can't discriminate on the basis of race. What's so hard about it? The left has abandoned that principle. We filed a taxpayer lawsuit against an outrageous union contract being enforced with tax dollars in Minneapolis. The public teachers union contract essentially mandates that in the case of layoffs, it's usually seniority gets some protection in layoffs under union contracts. So the more senior you are, if there's a layoff, you're kind of put at the back of the line, and the most junior folks, most recently hired, get fired. Well, that's typically the case, except they put one caveat in this union contract with the Minneapolis public schools, that would be the rule. Seniors, most junior folks fired first, most recently hired laid off first, unless, of course, they were black or a member of an underrepresented group. You were skipped over if you were of the right color, and the white person would be fired under this contract. Blatantly unconstitutional, blatantly racist. It's just unbelievable that anyone would defend it, let alone allow it to be written in this day and age into a public employee union contract. That's what they did in Minneapolis. The lower court didn't want anything to do with our taxpayer lawsuit trying to stop tax dollars from being spent on this illicit contract, discriminatory contract. The appellate court upheld our right to pursue the case for our client, the client's taxpayer standing rights. And what did the school district do? They appealed it to the Minnesota Supreme Court. So we have the oral argument before the Minnesota Supreme Court next week on Tuesday. And you can listen to the argument, and we have the links below. You have to go to the link, and I think the link goes live just before the argument at 2, I think, Central Time on Tuesday, Tuesday, October 1st, not the 24th. As we know, Judicial Watch obtained a victory in the Minnesota Court of Appeals, which allowed our lawsuit to proceed. But the Minneapolis public schools spent more tax dollars defending the indefensible by appealing that loss to the Supreme Court. We filed the lawsuit in August 2022 against the Minneapolis public schools for violating the equal protection guarantee of the Minnesota Constitution. The public schools, supported by the teachers and public employee unions, assert that Minnesota's taxpayers don't have the right to challenge the illegal spending and taxpayer money by government officials for this discriminatory contract. As we note in our brief, Minneapolis's public schools and its amici spill a lot of ink complaining that a complete stranger has sued to prevent the public school system from carrying out an unconstitutional provision of a contract between it and its teachers. The taxpayer, however, our client, is no stranger. She's a Minneapolis taxpayer, and the court, since at least 1877, has recognized taxpayers as proper parties to bring such actions in courts in Minnesota. The taxpayer could not have brought a more straightforward case. She alleges that she lives in Minneapolis, pays property tax on the home she's owned since 2017. She also alleges that Minneapolis Public Schools is funded in part by her tax dollars. In addition, she alleges that the schools spend the tax dollars to carry out the various provisions of its contract with the teachers union, and that one of those provisions violates the Minnesota Constitution, which means it's unlawful expense tied to her tax dollars. The contract provides preference, protections, and privileges for teachers of certain races and ethnicities under a section entitled Article 15, Protections for Educators of Color. There's no similar provision covering educators who are not of color. Under the contract, teachers of color are exempt from defendants' seniority-based layoffs and reassignments, which means when layoffs or reassignments occur, the next senior teacher who is not of color would be laid off or reassigned. In addition, the contract mandates that defendants reinstate teachers of color over more senior teachers who are not of color. Does it get any simpler than that? You can't discriminate on the basis of race. What's so hard about it? The left has abandoned that principle. This was a core issue for the teachers union, by the way. I think they went on strike, and this was a key provision they wanted, and they got it. So our Michael Bekesha, who is the senior attorney for Judicial Watch, will be out in Minnesota arguing on Judicial Watch's behalf before the Supreme Court there in St. Paul. And we're represented also, or assisted in the lawsuit. Excuse me, we're not represented. Our client is also being represented by the excellent lawyer Daniel Rosen, Daniel N. Rosen, out in Minnesota as well, so we appreciate Mr. Rosen's help. This is a woke, racially discriminatory contract. Not one tax dollar should be spent on it. Not one tax dollar. So we're winning the case. We just have to defend the win before the Supreme Court. So wish Michael luck, and again, pray for wisdom and discernment for the courts. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.